Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. Today, we are welcoming a long-lost guest, Miss Andrea Slusarski. Now, you all know Slu. She has been on this podcast so many times to talk about sketchbooks and color theory and classroom management and working as an artist and so many more different ideas. In this episode, though, we are going to talk about arts integration. It's something that Slu is passionate about, something she's been working on extensively, especially this year, and something that she wants to discuss. But I know this is kind of a hot topic with a lot of people, like why arts integration? Because there's just this unending battle of, why do we have to justify what we do in the art room? Like, why do we have to fit into other subjects? And when we're fitting in, why do we have to try and validate ourselves? Can't art just stand on its own without, accessorizing the core subjects? And I think all of those things are worthwhile, and I absolutely understand them. But today's conversation is going to go in a little bit different direction. Rather than thinking about, arts integration and how it fits into, the other subjects that are there and how we can help out other subjects and, why we might have to do it, we're going to look at it from the perspective of doing it because you want to, not because you have to. We're going to talk about what happens when you want to do arts integration, when you're interested in science or math, or maybe you're just interested in collaboration. Okay, but how do you get started on that? What are you trying to do? What do you need to think about as you're trying to implement these ideas? If it is something that you want to chase after, if it's something that you want to get going in your classroom or in your school, that's what we're going to discuss today. But before we get to the interview, I do want to tell you about my favorite course from the Art of Education University called Managing the Art Room. Now, if you want to learn even more about having better classroom management, you might want to consider Managing the Art Room. It is a 3-credit course that runs over 8 weeks, and it helps you to create just a unique blend of strategies and techniques to hold students accountable, manage materials and resources, design procedures for yourself and your art room to keep it running efficiently, and just how to establish an enjoyable creative environment. You walk away from the course with an understanding of several comprehensive management strategies. And the best part about the whole course is that you're working with other art teachers. So you're going to receive support from fellow art educators as you talk about struggles and learn how to kind of turn things around. And I think this is the perfect time of year to take a course because you can implement some ideas, see what works and what fits with what you do in the last couple months of school. And then whatever is working, you transfer that and you make it part of your classroom management repertoire for next year. So if you're interested in learning more, please check out theartofeducation.edu/courses. Okay. After all that, Andrea is ready, so let's go ahead and get the conversation started. All right, and Andrea Slusarski is joining me now. Slu, how are you tonight?
Hi, Tim. I'm doing so great. It's nice to hear from you. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I know it has been months since you've been on the podcast, and I'm really excited that you're back. So
and it's been
thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks. And it's been months since we've emailed, which is very atypical of us.
Right. So we can remedy all of that tonight by talking about arts integration, which
yes.
I am semi-excited about, and you were get up out of your chair and scream excited about. I know you love it. So so let me just give you the floor to start. Can you talk about where your passion comes from when it comes to arts integration and just why you love it so much?
Yeah, Tim, I freaking love art. When you say I want to jump out of my chair, that's that's cool. And I love learning equally as much. And most of all, I love what creativity does to the process and the enjoyment of learning. And that's kind of how I got here. I've just been passionately following arts integration in my own professional development as an artist and an art teacher, my graduate studies, and basically any conference, lecture, reading, and conversation I've been able to get my brain on the past few years now. Yeah. So that's kind of the
That's really
intro.
cool.
That's where I'm like
Yeah.
jumping on my chair.
Okay, and so like, what are you doing at your school now, though? Like, how are you bringing this into what you're teaching?
Yeah. So the school I currently teach at is not officially an arts integration school, but we've been working really hard to build our identity and culture as a school thriving in the visual and performing arts. We've done this in a few ways, from developing and hosting our own Performing and Visual Arts Week, which is coming up soon.
Cool.
So I'm busy. And my coworkers making conscious efforts of incorporating more creating and creative thinking in their curriculums, to planning various professional development opportunities for our colleagues. So I've been busy.
Yeah.
I've been busy. Sure. That's why I haven't talked to you in a few months.
Nice. Well, and I want to ask you a little bit about, what you do with your colleagues later. But, just as far as, people who are interested in arts integration, like, where is the easiest place to begin? Like, what are the most logical connections that you can do between art and other subjects?
Well, I guess in like a broad sense, I really would want to say that I don't want to reach beyond this notion that we need to fully commit to creating a PBL or arts integration school or integrative school, because we just don't have the time to sit around. We can start with small changes in our own control, and that will begin to reach more students within the arts and also bring arts integration to the norm of how we learn and approach teaching. That's where I want to be. So like, easiest place to begin. And I know I sound like a broken record in some of our chats, but I seriously do you. I want all art teachers to realize that if you're not authentic to yourself and teaching things that make you excited, you're just not having fun.
Yes.
Or you're not having as much fun as you can be. And we're art teachers. That's fun.
For sure. For sure.
So if you're looking to begin about or learning about or experimenting with arts integration, think of what interests you. For me, I'm a huge science nerd. I start chatting with my coworkers. I share ideas like, hey, we're learning about color theory of painting. When are you teaching light waves? Perhaps you have a work wife or husband or BFF, whatever you like to call them. Collaborate with them. If you're going to be challenging yourself to step out of your comfort zone by doing arts integration or, adding different levels of complexity to your lessons or, your school, make it fun and exciting to start.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Now, let me ask you, like, once we have things started, people are dipping their toes in the water and starting to do this, like, what can they expect to see? Like, what are some of the biggest benefits? Is it about engagement or what is it about for you?
Engagement definitely plays a big role in it. And it's personally because I find these as great shakeups in my school year. Mm-hmm. It keeps me excited with projects. It challenges me, and maybe find an interest of a student that I haven't turned on to art quite yet. And plus, I like to think of it this way as well. You're also really elevating your students' learning and confidence in that other subject you integrated with. Arts is an entry point. You didn't just do a painting. You also learned geometry when you crafted that original folk art. And imagine the power that has on a student who might not feel that great about math class. And that's what I eat up about being an art teacher.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, like you said, that's really powerful too. And so I think that's something that that we definitely can all shoot for. But changing subjects just a little bit. I know you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
earlier, getting colleagues on board and, what you can do with them. So, can you just talk about the how with that? Like, how do you get other staff on board? How do you get them, seeing what you're seeing and doing what you're doing?
Yeah. It's been kind of a what I can get away with type of experiment. Just challenging myself where art can grow, how can we impact more students, and just daydreaming a little bit. So 2 years ago, I actually transformed my classroom to include space for other teachers to bring in their students to encourage creativity in their curriculums. Um, and a few classes took me up on it, and it was such a joy having an even larger community of students out in this art lab creating together. It's this really cool, just like art space that we've created at our school. But this school year, I've transitioned into a teacher partner position where I'm more available to help my colleagues reflect and grow their own practices as educators. Um, this has allowed me to continue taking a brain partner role with many of my other departments in my school to support them in any ideas or questions they have with art, or sometimes just bringing a little art teacher creative thinking to the table. Um, yeah. But my incredible coworker, Miss Adams, runs the art lab, and she's been doing so great herself out in that space. And I'm still working with my student teacher from last year as he took over my course when I took the teacher partner position. So I'm really valuing mentoring and growing the people around me this year, which is a key ingredient in building a school culture that values and learns with the arts. So I'm really liking my position this year and the conversations I get to have.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really love that idea. And unfortunately, not everybody gets to be in an awesome job like that. But
No.
I do want to ask you though, just talking about this new position and your school working to create an identity, I guess, as, the visual and performing arts school, like you said, and just talking about building a school community around the arts. Like, what does that look like? And, how can teachers in other places start to build something like that?
Yeah. Sharing, showcase the learning happening in your classroom and your art students. Art improves our quality of life. Use that to improve the quality of your school. And like you said, I'm very thankful. I have amazing coworkers who are amazing supporters of the arts. They buy student artworks. They admire and build my students' artistic confidence in their own way. So invite your community to be a part of the visual culture you and your students are building, and they'll rise up. It's exciting. And then I guess if you're ready to up level, if you don't think that sharing is enough, or maybe you have some colleagues that are a little resistant, art teachers rock. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but art teachers have a ton to offer to not only our schools, but also just education. If there's an opportunity to host a workshop or give a professional development presentation, I say go for it, because we're never going to see authentic arts integration if there's a building of adults saying we can't draw.
Yes.
Oh, I can't even draw a stick
Yes.
figure. You can help them see that they're artists as well. And that's how you build just the mindset that you can even have arts integration.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I just want to throw in a couple ideas here that as you were talking that reminded me. You're talking about people buying student artworks at the art show and whatever. And, I don't even know that staff members have to buy things, but just ask them if they're willing to hang up kids' work. So many times kids are looking for some place to show off their work, and if another one of their teachers just says, oh, hey, I'd love to have that hanging in my classroom, that goes so far in building student confidence and, just building them up, supporting the whole, arts community. And I think that can be huge. So even just, talking to a few staff members who are interested in the arts, or sending out an email and just asking, hey, if you guys are interested, if you'd be willing, then that goes a long way to supporting your kids. And then as far as
brilliant. Yeah. No, like I'm like writing down like what am I doing tomorrow? But you're right. And imagine like what that transforms your school into
Mm-hmm.
if it's this all these rooms with art in them.
Yeah, if you have original works hanging up in, every other classroom, every third classroom, even like that, that's huge. That's huge.
And you're sitting in like your classes and seeing that's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
Sorry to
cool.
cut you off,
No,
but like
that's
thank
okay.
you for the tip.
And then the other thing that I love to do is, offering PD like with non-art teachers just at your school, or even like after school things where, I've taught teachers to throw on the wheel, and like we've done like glass fusion before. Like I got all the guy teachers in my school around Valentine's Day to make some jewelry for their significant others. And, like that's super fun to do.
Yeah.
And, just little things like that, which take a little bit of your time, maybe a little bit of your budget, but it's so worth it to get other people on board with what's happening in your room. So,
yeah.
All right. But awesome. I do want to ask you too. I know there's some criticism of arts integration, saying that, it takes away from art for art's sake. So I just want to get your opinion on that. Like, if you're doing arts integration and like it's really developed at your school, is there still room for teaching art for art's sake?
I would say, oh, heck yeah. Fly that freak flag. Like that is like, we don't make artists without the heart. And that is where art is magic. So be an art teacher, make your best judgment.
Yeah. I like that. Well, and I think too, like not every lesson has to be tied into English or to science or to geometry. It can be pieces here and there.
Like you're still coming to art class to like have fun at art.
Right.
Like let's be real.
Yes.
And that's okay because they're children. So like let's have some fun with art too.
Exactly. And kind of in that same vein, we know that not every lesson has to, integrate something else. So we can just start small, with a few lessons here and there. So I guess, in that same vein, like, do you have tips for people as far as where they can start, what they can do to really get invested with the arts integration, or first steps they can take to, if they're just interested in exploring it?
Yeah. Tim, I think you already said it. Like, let's start small. Is there a lesson that you could reflect on and improve by adding an element yourself of integration? Like when I teach brain science and color theory, be the model by reaching out to your other departments and with a, hey, can you help me with this? Like a science teacher to your science friends, like how can I improve my color theory lesson with science? You're opening that door and creating some curiosity of what's going on in your room. And then maybe that works out. And you're like, I'm going to do one arts integrative unit or project or whatever this school year with a colleague and see how I like that. Being able to balance your curriculum for your own students in school is important. And you might not be able to go full arts integration ever. And that's okay too.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So I think, starting small, I love the idea of, just try one. Like, we have a couple months left in the school year. Try something before you step out for the year and just kind of see how it goes. And that's an awesome place to start. But all right. So let's go ahead and leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
And let's maybe try and go less than 6 months or whatever it's been before you come on again.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
All right, cool. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Tim. I think what Andrea was saying towards the end there, right before ever constant mantra of you do you, she's talking about how we need to share what we're doing, like show off what we're doing and get other teachers on board with what is happening in the art room. Because, what we teach art, we teach design, and these are deep, intellectual, like robust fields of study. And we need to talk about that. The perceptions out there are
flippant, about the art room. And there's so much that we can show off and so much that we can share about what we do, the critical thinking, the problem solving, the social emotional learning, the higher order thinking skills. That's what every other subject is looking for. And it's what we do naturally. And we can help our colleagues understand how much depth our subject has, and like I said, how rich our field of study is. And if those things are of interest to you, it might be time to do a little bit more with arts integration. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you to listening as always. And before we go, I want to give a shout out to NASCO as well. As you may have seen, there has been just a terrible amount of flooding where I live in Omaha and all of the surrounding areas. One of my old schools in particular is really hurting. Like about a third of the kids there have lost their homes, just lost everything in the flood. But NASCO is donating some art supplies and sending them their way. And that may not seem like a lot, but sometimes those small things mean so much. So thank you to Chris Backey. Thank you to NASCO. It is very much appreciated what you're doing. Well, thank you all, and we will talk to you next week.